Chapter 4 of Woody, Healer of Hearts and Souls. Chapter 4 is called Reuniting. Today, Madolyn arrives at the rescue to pick me up for the second time. She enters the small front room filled with about 6 of us and 4 humans talking. I smell her presence. I hear her voice as she catches Suzanne's eye and says, "Hey, how are you? I'm here for Woody." I knew she'd be coming for me, and now she's here. I separate myself from the moving mass of several dogs, and with tail wagging, I run to her before she even calls me. She doesn't spot me until I am about to nuzzle her knees, and she immediately gets down onto the floor. I am so happy in this moment of reuniting with her. She gives me a big hug and starts scratching behind my ears. "Hi, Woody, do you remember me?" "I remember you, Woody. You're such a good boy." My tail is wagging so fast you can barely see it. Of course I remember her. I had not forgotten Madolyn, not even for 1 second. Suzanne chimed in. "Of course he remembers you. Dogs don't forget a good home." Glancing in her direction, I say, "Thank you, Suzanne, for calling Madolyn to come get me. I wouldn't want to go to any other foster home. Thank you so much." "Okay, Woody, why don't we get out of here now?" Madolyn asks rhetorically. She doesn't need me to answer because it isn't a real question. Suzanne gives her the large foam top mattress and the Burberry cashmere jacket and a bag of dry dog food. Madolyn clips the thin nylon leash onto my collar and takes me to her car. She likes me and I like her, but it's more than that. We have something really special, although she still doesn't know it yet. I sit in the front seat and we drive off. Rounding the corner onto Reiner Road, she puts on her left blinker, and I lift my head, point my nose upward, and sniff the air side to side. "Aw, Woody, do you remember this street? Do you know where we are? Do you smell Madolyn's house already?" "Yes, I do smell your house," I answer. "Yes, I remember." I want to ask her to call it our house instead of Madolyn's house, but I hold my tongue and just wag my tail. I continue sniffing incessantly into the air and get more excited as she makes that left turn onto her street. She smiles at me as we pull into the driveway. I jump out eagerly when she opens my car door. She takes me to the backyard and lets me off leash for a little while. I hound around and I smell Angel, Danny, Moo Moo, and other dogs she fostered while I was with the Harfords. And then we go inside. "Ah, home," I say as I stretch my forearms forward on the wood floor. I got myself back here. Now I have to plan a way to stay here for good and to make it my forever home. I have a job to do. After some self-reflection, I acknowledge and regret that I was a bit withdrawn while I was with Madolyn last time, especially when white-faced Alex was with us. Or maybe I should say yellow-faced Alex. I really don't think I made the best impression on Madolyn, so I know I have to try harder this time to let my light shine the way Maxwell told me to, and the way God tells us to in the Bible. I'm encouraged when I remember Madolyn told me I remind her of Bella, and it fuels my passion to come up with something, some way, to make her adopt me. Some say dogs come back as humans in their next life, and some people say all dogs go to heaven, and they're both partially right. I'm going to tell you how it really works, and I know this because I have life experience and dog experience to validate this truth. Dogs begin life with a love of humans already in them, and love should always be a two-way street, so it's important that our owners really love us back. Love has to flow freely in both directions. Dogs who are really loved get to come back, but not as humans. The souls of dogs who are loved come back as many times as God wants us to. It's not exactly reincarnation, it's a little more like recycling or reassignment. God has people who need our love, and especially His love. And He sometimes expresses His love through the tangible, petable love of dogs. And if we are good at it, we get to do it again. Dogs go to heaven too, but not until we are done with everything God wants us to do. And not all of us get to go. Dogs who aren't loved back, are used, mistreated, or abused by their owners are doomed. People buy and adopt dogs for all different reasons, and unfortunately, love is only one of them. So just because a dog has a home doesn't mean the dog is loved. And that's why the first thing we always smell for on humans is the scent of the love of dogs. Some humans who don't have the scent of the love of dogs on them still get dogs. They get us to provide a service, like guard their home or business at night. The dogs you see pacing protectively behind a chain link fence are sometimes loved, but not always. Champions and show dogs too, they are mostly loved, but not always. Sometimes dogs are used by humans who don't and never will have the scent of love of dogs on them. Sometimes dog owners are abusive and neglectful. The souls of dogs who are used, who are not loved, who are taught to fear, hate, and be mean are doomed. Being mean or vicious is not natural for dogs. It has to be taught to them by someone who really doesn't love them. It kills their soul, and they never come back. But when we get to love freely and are loved in return, our souls come back in the body of a new puppy. Did you ever wonder why every little puppy is so irresistibly cute, sweet, and innocent when they come into the world? It's because puppies contain the souls of dogs who know how to be loved and how to love without fear. And that's why puppies are never mean. If we are really, really lucky on Earth, our souls sometimes make it back to our previous owners, who are sometimes in new homes, new towns, even new countries. And after we come back to love humans several times, our souls get to go to heaven. When Maxwell got sick, he told me about Madolyn. Well, he didn't know her by name. He just said, "There's a lady out there somewhere I had to find. She'll be the artsy type who likes funky hippie clothes. She needs to love and be loved by you, Woody." He said she needs me right now. And I was up to the challenge of finding her as soon as possible, whoever she was and wherever she was. I do my best work when I know I have a mission to accomplish. Madolyn didn't know I was going back to her for the second time, and I didn't either. I didn't know what he meant by funky and hippie clothes till I saw the poncho and painted boots. I'd known already I was an old soul, and this was not my first journey through life. I was one of the really, really lucky dogs. When he picked me up beside the river in the woods, Maxwell and I had a strange, familiar sense about each other. Above the fireplace, in his one-room cabin, I immediately understood why. A framed 50-year-old picture of his young wife, with her arms wrapped around a long-haired, black, Poolie sheepdog mix, Alfred, told me all I needed to know. A young woman hugging a dog much larger than I am now, both of them with dark, curly hair. It was Shirley and me many, many years ago. My soul had been in that body and was loved by Maxwell and Shirley in another state, in another time. Because I was so young when he picked me up beside the river this time, my sense of smell wasn't as developed as it is now. As babies, the one thing we are good at smelling is the scent of the love of dogs, and Maxwell had it all over him. If I'd been a bit older, I would have immediately honed in on the special scent of him and known it was our second time together. I didn't recognize him at first because his hair was gone and he was hunched over and his body was very old. I was different now too. A hound and terrier mix. But Maxwell was more different. Yet, he managed to care for his cabin far away from most of civilization, and every night he cooked a hearty meal for himself and me over open flame in the fireplace. Usually a dog's body dies before their owner's body dies. But I knew I had more years left on my body than Maxwell did this time around. He knew it too, and as he began to get weaker each day, and that's partly why he encouraged me to go find the lady who needs me. I knew I would miss old Maxwell, but having a new focus would help ease my grief. Old Maxwell knew where his soul was going next, and he wanted me to know where I was going next too. He was going to be with Shirley and other loved ones because they believed Jesus had forgiven all their sins and made a way for their souls to live forever in heaven. He wasn't sad because he knew his life on earth would seem like a short radar blip compared to eternity with God, Shirley, and other family and friends. He knew I had a place to go to too, and a mission to find my way to the lady Maxwell was talking about, even if I had to go through a kill shelter first. I'm a really, really lucky dog because I got to go back to 2 of my loving owners. Now I just have to solve the challenge of making her adopt me. Madolyn didn't believe or know anything about this yet. She hadn't had enough life experience and dog experience like I did, but that was about to change. Something was different in Madolyn's house when I got back from New York City. She no longer slept upstairs. While I was away, she moved her bedroom downstairs to the first floor. She relocated her art studio to the garage outside. It really works in my favor because my little bed is positioned in her room so I can look out if I want into the kitchen and general living space of her house to keep one eye on her at all times. When I go to bed at night, I don't have to leave her downstairs alone. I still have to convince her what I already know. This is my house, too. I knew it before I went to the city. It's not the house she brought me into 35 years ago as a baby girl greyhound when she was with Greg. And it's not any of the 5 houses I lived in with them all the way up to when their daughters were born. But wherever Madolyn was, it would always be home to me. It could never have been this way with Greg because someone knocked the love of dogs out of him when he was little. That's the only way to lose it because all children love dogs. All of them. They love dogs unless an adult or a bad dog teaches them to hate, fear, mistrust, and knocks the love of dogs out of them. It happened to Greg, and he grew up to become a person without the scent of the love of dogs on him. He may have wanted to love me when they got me, but he lacked the capacity to love like Madolyn did. He didn't even respond to my greetings when he'd return home from work. I always got up with my tail wagging and happily ran to greet him as he walked through the door. He'd just walk right past me. And it hurt my feelings, and Madolyn's too. I know when I'm not really loved. Dogs always know. My soul would have died when my greyhound body did if I didn't have Madolyn. She loved me and I loved her, so my soul got to come back. Now I gotta tell you, it's a real challenge when you're living with 2 humans and only one has the scent of the love of dogs on them. It's a challenge because you don't know if the growth of your soul will be stunted by the one without the scent of the love of dogs. You have to be a loved dog for your soul to come back, and in their house I was loved. But I was also unloved at the same time. If love didn't win, my soul would have been doomed to not come back. You hope love will overcome hate, and you hope love will win in the end and save your soul. And no matter what, you always gotta have hope.